Yeah, it's almost like it seems like the way, and I know this was part of Satoshi's vision was that, he wanted to create this decentralization and this ability that, me and you can be exposed to it. But like somebody like BlackRock, I would assume if they're buying this amount, they're going to want it to go up. And
Right.
what I think they're going to do is maybe try to take it all off exchanges eventually. Do you think that's going to happen where essentially BlackRock's going to buy as much of it as they can, remove it all into cold storage? And maybe that's like the end of Bitcoin where like you can't even buy it anymore. Do you think that's a possibility?
I mean, I think Bitcoin is the most scarce asset in the world, and the smart money are aware of that. That's why we have the spot ETF. So yeah, I definitely think it's a flight to safety. I think it's going to be a race to the top, if you like, instead of a race to the bottom. Everybody's going to want as much Bitcoin as possible. But again, what does that do? That incentivizes you and I to buy more Bitcoin. But I do think, so that aside, in terms of like, concerns regarding centralization, I do think that it is a good thing. A lot of people are concerned that Bitcoin could become, could be banned, could be made illegal. Well, now that we have BlackRock and many other major asset managers owning Bitcoin, it solidifies Bitcoin as that, as that credible asset, as that digital gold, as that. And I think in some ways that then protects our savings and our money.
Not to you and I, but to asset managers, hedge funds, people like Edward Jones and stuff, where before, I had a financial advisor and I asked him about Bitcoin years ago. Couldn't even talk to me about it. Even if I wanted to buy it, I couldn't buy it. Now that Pandora's box, I believe, is open for these funds to be able to actually move Bitcoin into these ETFs, these exchange traded funds. Do you think that this is going to, we've seen Bitcoin's price actually rocket up in anticipation to the approval. The approval happened. Then Leah, what happened next after this ETF was approved?
Bitcoin price has been so interesting around the hype around the Bitcoin spot ETF. A lot of people were saying that the price of Bitcoin was going to explode. But you have to understand, it was completely priced in. And I've been saying this for months. I've been saying that the Bitcoin spot ETF is going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. Everybody was upset with me. Everybody got very emotional, but we can't be emotional about these things. You just have to look at the last 3 months. Bitcoin has rallied. It was at $27,000. It's rallied $20,000 in the last 3 months. Well, you think it's going to rally even more? No. Naturally, the price went up because of the anticipation and the hype of the approval. Once it gets approved, people are already like 200% up on their gains. They're going to want to take their money off the table. They're going to want to take some profits. And also you have to understand there's nothing else hyping up the market. There's nothing. And so it was a buy the rumor, sell the news event, which I predicted. And it's so funny because in crypto, especially with Bitcoin, people are so emotional and people got so angry at me. But you just have to look at the facts. You have to look at the charts and, nothing goes up forever. Something has to cool off.
Yeah, it's still a young asset class. And, to see any type of price correction like this is normal.
Right.
I kind of looked at it the same way, just standard manipulation. But, what I see as more of a milestone coming up would be the Bitcoin halving, which I believe we're like less than 100 days away. So do you see the halving as a much bigger event than the spot ETF?
No, I see the spot ETF as a bigger event than the halving simply because of what the approval means for Bitcoin. Like we said, it legitimizes Bitcoin as that asset class, right? And, we saw Bitcoin rise over $20,000 as a result of all the hype around it. The halving is different. I think the halving is extremely important because I think if you just look at history, that's what starts the bull run, right? We have the halving, maybe there's a little pullback. The halving is also a little bit of a buy the rumor, sell the news, but eventually as the months go by, 6 months later, we do start to see the impact of that scarcity event. So I think the halving is extremely important in terms of sparking that next bull run and making Bitcoin even more scarce. I would just sort of say, firstly, they're different, but I would sort of say that the spot ETF is a little bit more historic.